get from Taiwan and the wider region. We now move to North America, and the world is on edge as US President Donald Trump is set to announce reciprocal tariffs today, a day which is being referred to as Liberation Day. The tariffs, once announced, will immediately come into effect. Ahead, the White House slammed India for imposing 100% tariffs on America's agricultural products, highlighting a similar trade barrier in the EU, Japan and Canada. This has added another level of anticipation for India surrounding tariff announcements. Trump, along with his team, has created a 20% tax on most goods that are imported in the United States. The report also the team is considering using the money from the give people a tax refund or dividend. Trump will announce the tariffs in the Rose Garden of the White House at around 4 p.m. Eastern Time, although there has been no information regarding the full schedule of the event. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that these tariffs will in the afternoon. Speaking of impact, US companies that import goods will have to pay the new taxes, especially if the White House starts charging them right away. Spokesperson Caroline Leavitt had suggested in her recent press conference. Let's listen in to what she said.
The president said last night he has made a decision and a determination. I was with him in the Oval Office earlier, and he is going to announce that decision tomorrow. I don't want to get ahead of the president. This is obviously a very big day. He's with his trade and tariff team right now, perfecting it to make sure this is a perfect deal for the American people and the American worker, and you will all find out in about...
Well, there are reactions coming from all around the globe. Canada has said that they will not impose taxes on food and other essential goods, but otherwise, Mark Carney said there will be retaliatory measures taken.
President Trump is in the process of trying to fundamentally restructure the U.S. economy, and that means that our economy here needs to change dramatically as well. As I also mentioned to the president and was very clear, we will respond to additional measures. So we will put in place retaliatory measures if there are additional measures put against Canada tomorrow. Thank you. We are going to be very deliberate in terms of the measures we take to fight for Canada, fight against these unjustified measures by the U.S. administration, but also to protect, to have that minimal impact in.
Australia has a trade surplus with the United States and a free trade agreement that allows duty-free entry for US exports. Anthony Albanese says that his government won't retaliate against the Trump administration with reciprocal tariffs. Let's listen in to what he said.
I stood up for Australia when they put on aluminium and steel tariffs. I continue to stand up for Australia and have said very clearly that we won't compromise and negotiate on our PBS, on our biosecurity, on our media bargaining code.
Well, with global markets on edge, Trump is set to reveal his plan from the White House Rose Gardens at 4 p.m. Eastern. Here is what the Mexican president has said of the impending announcement.
Porque eso siempre lleva a una mala situación. Por supuesto que se toman medidas, porque se toman medidas del otro lado, pero tiene que continuar el diálogo. No es un asunto de me pusiste, te pongo, sino de qué es lo mejor para México y cómo afrontar esta situación.
Well, joining us to discuss all of these developments as we head towards this announcement is Jim Rice, a professor of international law, who's joining us from Vigan in the Philippines. Jim, thank you very much for being here. Of course, the world is watching, world leaders are waiting. How much of an impact do you think these impending tariffs will have on the world's economy?
Thanks very much for having me on, Joshua. I really appreciate the chance to speak, and I promise that I won't filibuster as your previous guest did. In terms of how much of an impact this will have, I don't think anyone knows as of yet. However, I do believe that any economists and any of the world trade experts will be able to tell us that this will have a very detrimental effect, not only on world trade, but also on American inflation and also on people across the world.
Yes, Jim, absolutely. And of course, looking at potential tariffs going the other way for consumers in the United States, what could be the impact on them?
There's no question it's going to result in higher prices. It's been estimated that, again, this is not my figures, but it's been estimated that the cost of a new car purchased in the United States will go between 10 and 12,000 US dollars per vehicle. So obviously this is not going to help the American consumer. This is going to impact industries in Canada and Mexico and other of the American trading partners. And this is a bad idea all around.
Yes, and of course we are expecting this announcement at around 4 o'clock. How do you think the markets will react?
I think that the markets, I wish I could predict the markets, but I predict that they were going to react badly.
Sorry, Jim, what does that mean? What does that mean for the average consumer?
Oh, there's no question. It's gonna increase inflation in the United States. It's going to weaken consumer demand. And as to your previous question, I believe that the markets will plunge.
Absolutely. And of course, we've seen global leaders reacting a lot, taking a tougher stance, saying they're going to be looking out for their own interests. Is that, do you think, the answer to these tariffs? And for somebody like Claudia Sheinbaum, who said she wants to work with Trump, what do you think her motive is in that sort of narrative?
Well, again, we've heard the same kind of thing from Keir Starmer, and we've seen the same kind of thing from other European nations, which is to try and, for the moment, hold off on reciprocal adversarial tariffs. However, I think that was going to only go so far. I think eventually, when the Trump tariffs bite, I think of necessity, other countries are going to impose reciprocal tariffs on the United States.
Yes, and Jim, to bring an end to this discussion, how long do you think it will take for these effects of tariffs to be felt by the everyday consumer? Is it going to be straight away, or will we have to wait a few weeks, a few months for it to start biting in terms of everyday people?
I'm thinking more in terms of the political cost to Trump. Again, I'm not an economist, and this is not my expertise. However, what we're seeing in terms of early, midterm elections, by-elections, this is beginning to impact Trump politically, and as well as Musk. And I believe that once this becomes known in the White House and to Trump's advisors, I believe that they'll try to urge a course correction. Whether Trump will heed that or not, I have no idea.
Jim Rice, thank you very much for joining us and providing the insight there. Of course, the political ramifications, the economic ramifications are expected to be global, and we will be across all of those as they happen. We now move to Europe, and Russian drone strikes